All right, so the public keyword here means public, which means anybody can go and access, as we saw here. In the main method, we were able to say my ball, that capacity, and give it 0. Okay, and that could be disastrous, of course. So we are going to learn about the private. Now, the private, as it says here, it says only accessed within, not within the class. Because the idea is to have a class that is self-contained, that it does all of its work on its own. It does not let anybody else, or in this case, any other class, to come in and change things. So that's the reason why here, instead of public, let's go ahead and say private. Now, if that happens, we should have a little error, because if we say my ball at capacity, if you hover over, it says capacity has private access in the ball class, which is good because no one else can access this capacity, because it's such a crucial property that it can be accessed from everywhere. Okay, just one place. So let's go ahead and do that, comment that out so we don't get that error. Going back here, now we have our private int capacity. Okay, so the same thing should be with our bounce. In this case, we just going to go ahead and say private, because we don't want, even though we haven't used it, but it's always a good idea to put all of your properties, instance variables, and make them private. So let's go ahead and do that. Notice we're going to have an error. Say private. Say private. If you save this, go back, you're going to see a lot of errors here. Why? Because now we can't just directly access our properties, okay, which is really, really good. So let's do the same thing everywhere. Let's go to our basketball here. Sort of going to say make this private. Let's make this private. Oh, despair. A lot of errors, a lot of reds here. Look at all these reds. So now we can't access anything. Wow. Sad day. Sad day. Now let's clean things up. We don't need this anymore. All right, let's just go ahead and clean this all up. In fact, let's go just like that. Okay, so let's fix things a little bit here. So we've made everything private. And we said that each class is its own entity. It does all the work, does everything that it needs to do, and then exposes everything that needs to expose to the outer world, other classes. That's when the behaviors comes in. A proper ball, there is no way to actually set our color, name, capacity, bounce rate. I mean, we can still go ahead and tap into our behaviors, right? Which we can do right now here. So if you go ball, back here, and say ball, bounce. Notice actually if we go dot, ball dot to access, you don't see any properties anymore. You just see the behaviors because they're all public, okay? And the properties, we've changed them to private. So now we can still access all of these. Bounce, if we save this, go clear this up and run, you should see bouncing, which is fine. But then how do we create an actual ball? Because now we have a semi-ball in a sense, right? It can bounce, but the properties are nowhere to be set, okay? And nowhere to be seen really from here. There's something else we need to do that will allow us to set the properties up properly. Again, idea you always have to remember and have in the back of your mind is that a class is its own entity. So everything has to be worked out inside here. Okay. Now this next concept we're going to learn is called constructors. So in order for us to set up our string color, string name, capacity, and all that, we're going to go and create constructors. A constructor is what will allow us to construct, as the name implies, a proper object. So when we are here and we say ball equal new ball, this is creating the actual object. But what it's really doing, it's actually calling the constructor, which is just a method, another word for a method, that every class has. Okay? Inside here, you notice this is the same syntax we have with a method, right? So inside here, we can then construct parameters here, which then will translate into properties, which then will set up our object properly. So if you go ahead and highlight all of these, right click and say generate or control N, you'll see constructors. We can go ahead and create a constructor real quick with all of these. Now, everything like that. Everything got messed up a little bit. Now we have the ball constructor. Notice something very similar here. It's very interesting. It says public ball is the exact same name as the class. That is very important because remember here, this will be the constructor. In fact, right now we are having issues because we created a new constructor, which means it has some parameters, which incidentally are all of the properties that we have created here. Okay. Now notice also what happened here. We now have this.color equal color and this.name equal and so forth. What is this? Well, this is just another indicator, a way for this constructor here to know we are talking about this class here, which is ball class. This class's property. So we're saying this.color, we're saying same thing as saying ball.color or ball.color property is going to be equal to whatever we pass in as a string inside here as ball. Now, the reason why this.color is being appended is because since you notice there's color and there's color. So the IDE, it was very helpful in that it went ahead and created everything automatically for us. So that's why it appended this, because you see there's color. And so it's trying to differentiate to say, well, this color here, it's not the same color as the one that is being passed in as a parameter here in our constructor. Okay, that's how it's differentiating it. That's why it just appends this, because otherwise if it was just this, like this color, and then it has no idea which color you're talking about. Are you talking about this color here passed in here? Yeah, that's what's happening, which makes no sense. That's why it says this.color to say we are talking about this color here outside as our parameter, outside of our parameter here, this color here, the property color. Now, the other way to change this notation here is if you go manually, just change, say this, call this mcolor. Okay, just a name, capacity, bounce rate, something like that. Now, since we are differentiating color from the other color, we don't have to use this. But of course, we have to change this. Copy this here. Copy this here. Okay. This is may seem a very trivial and unnecessary thing, but believe me, it really helps later to understand what's really going on here. So if you don't understand this, rewind this video or ask questions because it's very important. So we didn't do really a lot here. We just changed the names here that are being passed on to differentiate from what we have here colored, so we don't have to use this notation. Now color equal mcolor, which means this color here, when it's set, is going to be equal to whatever we're passing in here. Check this out. We go back here. Now we have to pass in things. If you hover over, it says mcolor is type of string, mname string. So we have four properties that we have to pass in. All of them, two are integers and two are strings and two are integers. So let's start here. The first one we're going to pass is a string. Color, we can say blue. Next one, we're going to say just ball. The third one is going to be what? In an integer, I think. Let's say 12, my capacity. The third one is also going to be an integer. Let's say 45. Bounce rate. Now we have created an actual ball with all these properties using a constructor. Well, before, the way we constructed our object was ball.capacity, but now we can't access that because it's all private. And that's exactly how it's supposed to be. This is how it's supposed to be. So now we have our ball very well constructed, right? It has a blue as the color, just ball as name, capacity 12, and 45 as the bounce rate. However, we still can't show, for instance, if I wanted to know what the color of the ball is, I have no way to really see what we have set here. Like, if I want to say ball.color, it's not going to allow me, right? So say ball.color, still not going to allow me, which means now we have to have another way to access what color we have set. Okay, that's where it comes here. We have in our behaviors, we can now create a function that would retrieve the color, name, capacity, and bounce rate. So what are we trying to do here? We are trying to follow that rule that we set, that we understand. That a class, it's its own entity. It always has to absolutely be self-reliant. Everything that happens out of the class will be exposed through methods. We can't expose things through our instance variables because we know how that could be really bad. So now here we can say, for instance, if we want to show the color, right? Because a public void show color, okay? We can say system.out.println color, like that. So this color, which color is this? If you click on that, well, it's going to be color at the top here. Remember, we are also able to access the color here, even though we are inside of this method here. We're able to access the color because we have it at the top here as an instance variable, and it's private and it's at the top here, which means everywhere it will be accessible. All right, so now show color as a behavior, as a method that allows us to, from anywhere else, to be able to get the color that we set when we created our object. So now here, if I go and say ball dot, see, show color. How beautiful. If you save this and run, oh, we have errors because there is a problem here in our extends. So the reason we have this issue, if you hover over it, says there's no default constructor available in the ball. So here, since we are extending from ball, we have that error, so that means we have to go back here and have another constructor. Just put it public ball, something like this and like that. So it's an empty. It's gonna be a default one. Okay, this will solve this error here that we were having here, which will allow us to run our code for now at least. Okay, let's clear this. All right, so let's go ahead and run this. Blue. Let's go back to main. Ball.show color. It's blue because we said color is blue here. That works. That's perfect. So we are really now we're looking at the beauty of object-oriented programming here, right? Because now we are abstracting everything. We're not setting anything up here. We set everything up inside of our constructor. Okay. And now we're just able to call a method which we created here in our ball, as you can see. And we can do the same. We can go and say public void, and we can say show name. Show name. Okay. System.out.println. And we can just pass name there. If you save this, now we go to main here. We can go ahead and say ball.show name. You see the beauty? Guess what? It's going to show this just ball. Run. We're going to see blue and just ball. Wonderful. This is amazing because now look how clean our main method where we call instantiated a ball and created an actual ball, passed in all of these properties. Now look how clean that is. We don't have to literally go and set each individual one. We just set everything in one shot and we have something beautiful, something abstract, something well organized and works. All right, so I'll see you in the next video where we will continue this journey with objects here. All right, see you next.